To pay $39.35 to hold my baby after he...
Yup. 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 The reason why hospital prices are this expensive is because they're so fucking... There is no... Again, the mediator does not give a shit. The mediator, the insurance company, literally just offsets the cost back to you, the consumer, the customer, the sick person. So they have no incentive whatsoever to like actually fucking operate and try to bargain and lower prices at hospitals. Okay? And the other reason is most people simply cannot fucking pay. So because a lot of people simply cannot fucking pay, and there's a lot of medical debt, they literally jack up the prices so that like each fucking Hal's throat lozenge that you take is like $90 fucking dollars, because the people that can pay have to pay for the rest of the fucking entire industry, or for the rest of the entire they're basically like double insurance. They're covering everyone else.
Is $39.
I had to pay $39.35.
Well, you get a discount, brother, if you don't touch your baby after your baby is born. Just keep it there. It's a $40 discount, brother. That's called freedom.
Says to hold my baby after he was born. You need to pay money to hold a baby?
Goddamn
My
communist.
brother Jamie, who's in a lot of our videos, was pretty badly injured. He's going to lose a couple fingers. If you can give $1 or if you can give $5, every little bit will help him and his family.
That's heartbreaking.
GoFundMe should not be something.
Literally, greatest nation on earth, boys, where we have set up a website that was designated to like create, and fund creative endeavors. And that website functionally operates as a e-begging platform, so you can fund your fucking healthcare. That is if you're lucky, of course. If you're not lucky, then you don't get shit and you fucking die, or take on medical debt.
Something that people have to resort to pay for their medical bills.
So in America, people spend more than twice as much as in Japan for healthcare.
If I paid twice the amount for a car, I would...
This is literally adjusted to how privatized the system is. Switzerland's system is the most private system in comparison to the rest of the EU nations and the rest of the OECD nations.
would want the car to be twice as good.
So what's the life expectancy in the U.S.?
Why is it less?
The US should be on top of both of those lists.
We're number one, brother. That's why. What? You mean to goddamn tell me that living for less, for you get the speed run life, brother? You fucking commie bastards. Goddamn. You don't understand it. I'm speed running. That's the end point for me, brother. Good enough. What you fail to consider here, my friends, is that I like paying to lose. I like paying the speed run through fucking life like this.
Like, if you're charging your citizens that much money, then they better be living the longest lives. It doesn't make sense.
When Alec turned 26, he was no longer allowed on his mother's insurance plan. Instead, he decided to pay for his insulin over the counter at list price. But the pharmacist told him a month's supply would be $1,300. He left empty-handed. Alec's official cause of death was diabetic ketoacidosis.
A couple of years ago, I developed a heart condition, and I had to have my heart restarted 3 times. After the...
Hey, brother, hey, in America, we give you the 4th one for free, so, we got a punch card, brother. See? Freedom. Just kidding. You fucking die on the 4th one. We don't give a fuck.
The 3rd time I had it
That's freedom!
The doctor suggested I get heart surgery.
When I was 13, I started to get sick and really, really sick. I was then very quickly admitted into hospital where after 3 weeks I had treatment for a brain virus.
The cost of the operation, I think, is about $60,000. And then the next day, when I left the hospital and I got my bill, it was a bill for parking. It was about $30.
And was treated by royal doctors, had several MRIs, lumbar punctures, all for free.
So I was pretty happy that I lived in Canada and had universal health care.
I couldn't have survived if I was in America.
To know that I can get sick, I can get injured, but I will still be taken care of. That is freedom. This is not freedom.
Like, Europeans look at this and they're like, what the fuck? That's crazy. And here we are in the United States, totally just numb. Absolutely numb to this shit. Like, absolutely numb to this, dude. I've heard diabetic people dying so many times that it's just like, yeah, that's it. Let's not even get to how we have a medical caste system like with the VA. I'm a vet and very grateful. Yes, the VA system also is fucked up. Hey, Hassan, not trying to trigger or anything, but dead naming Caitlyn Jenner, even though she is a shame on the transgender community, hurts all trans people by insinuating that respect for trans people is something that can be taken away if you misact. Yeah, but that wasn't what happened. Will was saying that a conservative was going to dead name Caitlyn Jenner. Like, it's copy pasta? I don't think it is. Because the other copy pasta. Yeah, no, it's not okay to dead name Caitlyn Jenner because you hate her. Everyone knows that. But Will did dead name her like 4 times in that joke. Yeah. He was saying that a conservative is going to dead name Caitlyn Jenner. Are you saying that that is unacceptable as well? That a conservative is going to consider I legitimately don't know. And it wasn't 4 times, it was twice, I think. But they literally do that on daily. They do that daily on right-wing shows. Will is right. So how does that work? Does that mean like if we are watching someone, am I not allowed to watch like Steven Crowder do that and react to it? I'm actually asking. I don't know. I mean, we all agree saying a slur as a joke isn't funny. Yeah, but Will wasn't saying a slur as a joke, or even saying that a conservative is going to say a slur. Like, Will wasn't dead naming as a joke. Will was saying that a conservative is going to end up like voting for Caitlyn Jenner for her background. Okay? And dead name her. Like, he wasn't literally saying that this is Caitlyn Jenner or anything like that. Socialism done left got in shit rightfully for this reason. Like, you guys understand the difference. Will is not socialism done left. No, I don't even know what the fuck socialism done left did. And I don't really care. You paused on it. Please come on my podcast and discuss gypsies with me. No. As a trans person, that joke was funny and not offensive considering the fact that he was satirizing transphobes. I personally think it's like you saying insert minority or doing something bad while playing a right-wing character. Also, the implication is, of course, dead naming is bad throughout. Yeah. Yeah, it's like when I say the blacks when I'm doing like a right-wing a caricature of a person. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, there's an entirety of out of context Hasanabi clips out there that you can go back and watch where I am portraying the argument of the opposition or making a joke of it, making a mockery of it, that devoid of context comes across as incredibly inappropriate and offensive. It's not, though. Would you say the N-word? No, I wouldn't. Is dead naming someone as like the same as the N-word? That's the question. When you're saying a right-winger is going to dead name someone, are you saying that it's like literally you saying the N-word? And it's not even like someone personally dead naming someone, because that would be completely inappropriate. What are you even talking about? There's no equivalent to the N word. I agree. I don't think there is, but still. So, for those of you who don't know, dead naming is when you intentionally refer to the I guess old name of a trans person before they went through gender confirmation. Like it's the gender that they are assigned at birth. Did someone dead name actually get said, or did someone just say that another person will end up dead naming? Because if it's the latter, I don't give a fuck. No. Yes, Will used the words Bruce Jenner. Like, when he was depicting what a conservative would end up doing when they are voting for Caitlyn Jenner. That is dead naming. I did it as well just now to describe to you the context of the situation. I don't think that this is going to be considered inappropriate. Literally perpetuating it. Is that like you use Ellen Page when talking about old Elliot Page movies? Kind of. Well, I guess Elliot Page is new, so there's more room for people. The joke wasn't Will acting like a right winger who's dead naming. The joke was about the right winger who was dead naming. Yes. As a trans person, I think this stun lock is fucking dumb. It's not even just making fun of conservatives who, like, it's not even making fun of conservatives who say dumb shit. It's directly criticizing the reasoning as to why a conservative would vote for a trans person. This is literally why people hate leftists, for fuck's sake. There's a lot of trans people in here that, and some of them are upset, some of them are not. Anyway. I'm going to move on from this subject. Why chatters are bringing it up here, even though Hassan didn't say it? I don't know, because they want me to correct Will and talk to him about it, probably. How hard is it to not say the N-word and not be a dick to trans people at the same time? It's literally dead. You have to destroy the concept in your head. What? It sounds like 2011 Tumblr and it's gross. Yes, of course. Elliot Page. There is no other name. What? We're not having a conversation about whether dead naming is appropriate, chat. Like most people in here understands that dead naming is inappropriate and bad. The conversation we're having is like, is it acceptable in this context or not? Some trans people say it's fine. Others say it's not. Okay? Not a single person is like, oh yeah, as a joke, literally call trans people by their dead name. Or for those who don't understand, by their old name before they came out as trans. I don't even know if that's the most acceptable or appropriate way of covering that subject, but anyway. As a trans person, it is not okay to intentionally dead name? Yes. No one disagrees with that.
The United States government struck a deal.
All right, we're moving on to
$1.2 billion would go
we're moving on to why rich countries are making the pandemic last longer.
for the British drug maker AstraZeneca to speed up their COVID-19 vaccine research. In exchange, AstraZeneca promised the U.S. 300 million doses if the vaccine made it through safety and efficacy trials. Earlier that month, the United Kingdom signed a similar deal with the same company to secure 90 million doses. These types of transactions where a country makes a deal directly with a company are called bilateral deals. And in 2020, rich countries made a lot of them. Those billions of dollars helped fund research that brought us the world's leading COVID vaccines in record time. But that money also determined where those vaccines would go. By January 2021, 96% of the Pfizer...
If everyone agrees with it, why'd you literally do it, though? Trans viewer? What? Hey, trans person who also simultaneously is fucking brain dead. Why do you have a really aggressive opinion on a subject if you weren't fucking there and you literally don't know what the fuck you're talking about? I never did it, you dumb fuck. Now you're mad at me? Like, what the fuck is this shit? Dumbass. No, it's not a fucking troll. That's like a legitimate trans person who's like, I am now personally offended at a hypothetical where it didn't even fucking happen. God damn, dude. Stop looking like fucking clowns on the internet.
BioNTech vaccine doses that were scheduled to be produced by the end of the year had already been bought, and 100% of Moderna's. Countries representing 16% of the global population held over half.
You did say her dead name, though, in your example of what people said? Yes! I said Bruce Jenner when talking about what dead naming is to describe to people what dead naming is! Are you fucking brain dead? We also said Ellen Page when talking about Elliot Page and what dead naming would be. How do you explain something to people without using examples? That's how people learn. Fuck! Fucking brain dead idiots. Sometimes it literally feels like you just want to be fucking mad, dude. This is one of those instances. You just want to be mad and you want to hear your fucking voice. Shut the fuck up! Oh my god, Hassan is in a fucking perpetual stun lock again. Oh, it's so funny, but also, why can't you just not avoid the stun locks? How do you want me to avoid the stun lock when motherfucking 15-month members of my community are literally fucking losing their shit?
In May of 2020, the United States government struck a deal.
Yes, keep it in emo mode for sure.
$1.2 billion would go to the British drug maker AstraZeneca to speed up their COVID-19 vaccine research. In exchange, AstraZeneca promised the U.S. 300 million doses if the vaccine made it through safety and efficacy trials. Earlier that month, the United Kingdom signed a similar deal with the same company to secure 90 million doses. These types of transactions where a country makes a deal directly with a company are called bilateral deals. And in 2020, rich countries made a lot of them. Those billions of dollars helped fund research that brought us the world's leading COVID vaccines in record time. But that money also determined where those vaccines would go. By January 2021, 96% of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine doses that were scheduled to be produced by the end of the year had already been bought, and 100% of Moderna's. Countries representing 16% of the global population held over half of the doses from the most promising vaccine developers. Basically,
sorry, this is the last thing I'm going to say about this issue. It's in emote mode, so I'm not going to get perpetually stun locked by this, so it doesn't matter. I'm not in a room with just you, okay? I am not just talking to you. Stop being so fucking selfish, okay? I've said time and time again that if you are incredibly sensitive, I completely understand. But if you consider this to be a safe space where you might not hear a dead name ever, even when describing the concept of dead naming, then this is not for you. I'm telling you again, if that makes you feel like this is a hostile space, then you can look for another space that is less hostile for you, because unfortunately your hostility, your metric for what is considered hostile is literally insane from my point of view, because I also have a larger goal of making people less transphobic. And you have to recognize that as a marginalized person, I have a lot of privilege, okay? And I'm trying to use it for good. And there are a lot of other people who have privilege blind spots, and I'm trying to be accommodating to their intolerance and bigotry to a level. This is at the heart of what I believe in. This is what I've been doing. This is the reason why I am not your fucking Tumblr community that is welcoming and accepting, but also simultaneously shuts itself off entirely to anyone that is even here to learn something, okay? You are never going to have a large leftist space if this is the mentality that you have. I'm sorry. So thankfully, it's not your fucking space, okay? And it's my fucking space. So stop being so goddamn rude, because you have perceived a slight here in an otherwise educational context. You can turn around all day and be like, Hassan is transphobic. Most trans people are going to fucking laugh at you if you say that. Okay? We are literally talking about the concept of dead naming and trying to have a discussion around it. And you choose to be upset and literally fucking lose your shit over the fact that I'm giving an example of what dead naming is. That is fucking insane, dude. That's literally fucking insane. That expectation is not going to happen anywhere, at least for now. As we live and breathe, when gender norms are so fucking rigid and so personal, and literally it's all the social conditioning that people associate themselves with in their entire lives with, and that's precisely why trans people have such a hard time coming out. Not just because of all the fucking transphobia, but because they themselves have internalized transphobia because it's so fucking deeply personal. There's so much transphobia everywhere. So obviously, when describing a concept about transphobia, you're going to hear some transphobia, okay? So if that's your expectation from this community with 30,000 fucking active viewers right now, you're delusional. Jesus Christ. This is not just for you individually, okay? I'm not just having a conversation with you personally, individually in a room. I'm trying to have a larger goal of educating people on concepts that they were unaware of by making relatively rational arguments. Fuck. Understand that you are going to, if you are in this chat, hear shit that is racist, that is misogynistic, that is transphobic. There's a level of that is always going to be there because most people hold on to these points of views because this is what they've learned their entire lives. And there is no way to educate people without actually sometimes discussing these concepts. Oh my God. Sorry for getting so agitated, but this is like a deeply personal subject for me because if I were to listen to all of the fucking woke scolds in my audience that literally lose their shit over the perceived slight that they've created, that concocted in their own fucking minds, I would not be where I'm at. And you would not have a community where you've met so many new people because so many people change their minds over time. Okay? So stop fucking yourself over. Having said that, obviously transphobia is unacceptable and you will get banned. As always.
Rich countries got vaccines, poorer countries didn't. In Brazil and India, health systems are being pushed to the limits at the same time that the US is quickly opening up vaccinations for anyone.
That's making the pandemic last longer. It's allowing infections to rage and new variants to arise. And at the end of the day, more people are dying than need to be.
The same deals that helped develop vaccines are making it harder to get them around the world. Now what?
What's happening now with the COVID-19 vaccine inequality isn't at all unprecedented.
In 2009, the World Health Organization declared swine flu a pandemic.
We are all in this together.
After securing their own vaccine deals, these 9 higher-income countries pledged 120 million doses to the WHO for lower-income countries. But they only started sending those donations after they realized the outbreak wasn't as serious as everyone initially thought.
For years, we've seen health technologies rolled out in rich countries, and it takes decades for them to trickle down to poorer countries.
The problem starts with the vaccine market itself. Getting a vaccine from development to manufacturing to distribution is a multi-step process. By making bilateral deals with developers and suppliers early on, rich countries got in line here, at manufacturing. But there was no guarantee that any given vaccine would work or get past regulators to reach the market. If a vaccine fails shortly after funding, those billion-dollar investments are lost. So to offset that risk, countries invested in multiple options and suppliers, often securing enough doses to cover their populations several times. As of March 2021, Canada had secured over 300 million doses, enough to cover their population 5 times over. And the deals the US made were enough to cover its population at least twice, which worked out for them. Because even though they secured 300 million doses of AstraZeneca a year ago, as of April, it still hasn't been approved for use in the country. But the Pfizer and Moderna doses that the government pre-purchased are still enough to cover most of the population. Most countries can't afford to make multiple high-risk investments early on, so they wait until the vaccine is further along in the approval process. And by then, they're already at the back of a very long line. Peru, for example, made a bilateral deal with AstraZeneca, but won't see those doses until at least September.
Those that purchased first or made the biggest orders or invested into the research and development are standing at the front of the line, which is why the US has gotten 240 million doses of vaccine so far, at least, and most of the poor countries in the world don't have 240 million doses combined.
So, is there a way to get a lot of money here without creating a priority line over here? Maybe. One program underway is designed to work as a sort of middleman between countries and the drug companies making vaccines. It's called COVAX. It's an initiative formed by 3 global health groups, including the World Health Organization. And its main objective is to provide vaccines to 92 middle and low-income countries that were shut out from making their own deals.
COVAX is kind of like the Paris Climate Agreement of the vaccine world. So it's this multilateral effort with almost 200 countries that have joined. And the idea is that, everyone has access to COVID-19 vaccines, regardless of the country's GDP.
It does this using a 2-part system. The first part allows high-income countries to buy into and access multiple vaccines at once. So instead of one country giving $2 billion directly to AstraZeneca, they'd give the money to COVAX, which would use it to fund several different vaccines. This way, if 1 or 2 of them failed early on, it wouldn't be a total loss. The other vaccines in the portfolio would make up for it. It's a multilateral system that's much lower risk for those countries than a bilateral one. The idea is that COVAX could use that larger purchasing power to negotiate deals with manufacturers and developers on a global scale, which would drive the costs down and fund vaccine development. The second part buys vaccines for lower-income countries. It's funded by donations from wealthier governments and charities. The US alone has pledged $4 billion to this fund. As vaccines become available, COVAX hands them out to every country at once, so rich countries and poor countries all get a fair share. At least, that's the idea.
The biggest problem with COVAX is these bilateral deals we talked about.
For COVAX to work as intended, it needs most countries to be using its multilateral system. But COVAX was formed a month into the pandemic, when many countries had already invested in bilateral deals. So the incentive for rich countries to join COVAX was low. But without them, COVAX might be underfunded. So it let them have it both ways. Rich countries could join COVAX and keep their bilateral deals that would get them more vaccines faster.
And those basically undermined COVAX because they put themselves at the front of the...
By the way, wait, this isn't even true because if I'm not mistaken, it's not just, it's not even... Like, America did this to an extent where... America did this to a degree where, like, the reason why we have so many vaccines where other European nations don't even have it is because we pumped literally everyone, and that Europe only relied on COVAX and are now also experiencing, as a consequence of not collaborating with one another, also experiencing shortages, or rather are not able to deliver vaccines to everyone at the same rates that they needed. This European nations or Western nations, in comparison to the developing nations, of course, are in a different situation. Like, they're better off than, say, Peru, absolutely, but they're not necessarily doing as well as the United States.
They're bilateral deals that would get them more vaccines faster.
And those basically undermined COVAX because they put themselves at the front of the line ahead of the access that countries will get through this collective agreement.
The US, for example, has donated the most money to COVAX, but is also still at the front of the manufacturing lines waiting for its own doses. The US and UK have both promised to donate some surplus doses to COVAX, but neither country has said when.
This means rich countries like the US decide who gets what when instead of, some global collaborative process of vaccine allocation.
Experts are skeptical COVAX will meet its original goal of delivering 2 billion vaccine doses by the end of 2021. As of April, they've only purchased around half that amount and delivered 45 million doses.
So they've reached a huge number of countries, but nowhere near enough to cover even frontline health workers or other essential workers in most of the countries that these vaccines are going to.
Meanwhile, as of April, the US has already administered over 200 million doses.
What COVAX is setting out to do is hugely challenging. They probably won't meet their own first targets, but they are getting vaccines into countries that probably wouldn't otherwise have them this quickly.
Vaccine inequality is bigger than just bilateral deals. It's in every step of the process, from limited manufacturing to cold chain distribution, even debates around the intellectual property of vaccines. Our current system is not a well-oiled machine at all. And there's a lot of work to do if we want to be better prepared for the future.
One of the things that we learned about pandemic preparedness is you can't really build it after the fact, and that's still what we're doing.
Okay, you can take it off. I'm gonna take it off emo mode. COVAX is relatively successful in my country initially when funding was still stable, but as developed countries described the vaccine nationalism, vaccination targets have been missed and cases continue to rise. You think access to the vaccine is going to be held hostage for use in diplomacy? I think that that's already happening. I don't necessarily have a problem with it. And what I mean by that is, like, as long as, for example, as long as as long as China is delivering vaccines to developing nations, I don't give a fuck if they're doing it for diplomatic reasons. As long as it doesn't mean withholding vaccines from certain countries. Do you understand? So I live in Peru where the majority wants to take vaccines but can't due to unavailability. In the U.S., people choose not to get vaccinated. Really? Yes. Yes, literally. That's why I was extremely upset at Joe Rogan for having the take that he did, where it's like, this motherfucker is so selfish, so insanely selfish. Like, the rest of the planet is like suffering. They would love to have vaccines. Meanwhile, we have hogs in America that are like, yeah, I would tell people not to take it. Wait, how do you use them for diplomacy other than withhold? By giving it to countries. The Western world considers, or like, yeah, Western nations consider what China is doing with Sinovac, Sinopharm, like, with mass distribution, and same with the Russian vaccines as well, to be a part of vaccine diplomacy. China is literally going to have those developing countries as slaves. We can't keep letting China have so much power over these poor countries. I mean, that's what we've done. for the longest time and continue to do. So my point is, if you don't want China to fucking have more authority, or if you don't want China to come across like the savior, then fucking don't hold out. Also, we do that literally nonstop. Have you had the vaccine yet? Yes, I got my first shot of Moderna. And I'm going to get my second shot soon. I lost my voice, dude. I literally fucking fucked my voice up. Okay, it's top of the hour. We're going to look at why 99% of the ocean pollution is missing. And, but before I do that, I'm going to run an ad break here. 60-second ad break. If you no longer want to see the ads, you can subscribe. You already know what the deal is. Sinovac doesn't even work. No, it does work. It's just the efficacy is very low in is a lot lower in comparison to the other like Pfizer and Moderna. Anyway, I'm running the ad now. You can subscribe for free with your Amazon Prime by connecting your Amazon to your Twitch account. Here's the ad break.
Between Hawaii and California, in an area about twice the size of Texas, is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. For decades, tons of our plastic debris has accumulated there because of swirling ocean currents. It looks like a cloudy soup, and that's because the plastic objects are spaced far apart, and they range in size from large debris to microscopic. There are at least 4 other garbage patches like this in the world. And after scientists discovered them, starting in the 90s, they thought that this might be where a lot of the plastic ended up, out there, floating on the surface. But recently, scientists brought large nets to the Great Pacific Garbage Patch and took a closer look at the objects they pulled out. They found water bottles, and hard hats, and bottle caps, and toothbrushes, and toilet seats, and laundry baskets. And using what they found, they were able to calculate how much debris was in all of the garbage patches.
There were about 300,000 tons of plastics at the surface of the ocean, which is a huge number.
It is a big number, but a few 100,000 metric tons of plastic is only about 1% of the estimated 8 million tons of plastic scientists believe is emitted into the ocean every year. So scientists have been left investigating a mystery. Where does the rest of the ocean's plastic go? This is clue number 1 in the case of the missing plastic, a seafloor sediment sample. It was taken from the bottom of the Santa Barbara Basin off the coast of California. It represents a measure of time from 1870 at its deepest layer of sediment up until 2009. But this period, from 1945 to 2009, is where the study authors were focused on. It's the era of plastic production. In these layers, scientists found plastic fibers and fragments that were 1 millimeter or smaller in size. They found more and more plastic particles as the years went on, doubling every 15 years. That rate is nearly identical to the rate of global plastic production.
As soon as you see a layer of microplastic, you know you passed the 1950s. And that's the legacy of our generation.
This is Laurent Libreton. He works at the Ocean Cleanup and led the study of the objects in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch.
And this will be there forever. We know that.
The sea sediment study looked at microplastics, particles smaller than 5 millimeters. These either come from synthetic clothing fibers, or they are the result of larger plastics breaking down. We found these tiny particles floating throughout the ocean, and even in the guts of the ocean's tiniest creatures, like plankton. But the sediment study shows that some of our plastic is likely hiding, buried in the seafloor, too. But here's another clue. This is a plastic bag captured 2,500 meters below the surface of the Arctic deep sea. It's one of over 2,100 photographs taken with this deep sea camera.
part of the work that we're doing is to look at the impact of climate change in the Arctic. We use towed camera surveys to look at the impact on large animals like starfish and snails, sponges. And while I was doing these surveys, I saw that more and more plastic debris was on the seafloor.
Melanie Bergman's research shows that large plastic objects don't just float on the surface or degrade into microplastic. Some of them sink without breaking down. One study found that about 50% of plastic in landfills is more dense than seawater, which means these objects could sink on their own.
But even those other 50% may actually travel to the seafloor with time. Debris which is floating on the ocean surface becomes colonized with barnacles, mussels, all sorts of different organisms. And then it becomes heavier and heavier, and at a certain point it then starts to sink.
Bergman's research is difficult to replicate throughout the ocean because of the challenge of surveying deep sea environments.
That French guy is way too fucking hot, dude. I know it's unrelated to the ultimate conclusion that we are fucking ruining this planet, and you know, we're dumping a fuckload of plastics in there. It's not gonna be solved by like fucking, you know, drinking paper straws or whatever. But that French dude is just like, it's fucked up.
But it suggests that some of that missing plastic might be sitting on the seafloor, intact. Another clue complicates the mystery, though. This plastic crate from Taiwan. It's one of the objects excavated during the harvest in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And what struck researchers was its production date, 1971. When they looked at the production dates of other objects, they saw a trend. A lot of it was old trash. This was a new lead, because if the majority of plastic pollution degraded into microplastic or fell to the ocean floor, then what you'd see in garbage patches would be new plastic.
And that changed the story because the plastic that is accumulated at the surface of the ocean is actually very persistent. The plastic we find in subtropical oceans may actually be there for decades, if not centuries.
It turns out the new plastic is far closer than the open ocean or the bottom of the deep sea. Le Breton's research found that plastic objects on coastlines have more recent production dates than plastic in the open ocean. This clue led scientists to think a lot of debris actually stays close to shorelines around the world, hidden in plain sight.
I literally Control F to see Twitch where far-right influencers feel at home, and I'm not on the article at all. That'd be fucking insane if one New York Times... First of all, New York Times doesn't do that. One New York Times article will not contradict the other one like that.
Site.
Some of that will end up in the middle of the ocean in garbage patch. But actually a lot of it stays fairly near shore and hops from beach to beach to beach.
Eric Van Sabeel is an oceanographer and is building an ocean model that predicts where our missing plastic ends up. The completed model will be finished in 2022, but in the meantime, he and his team publish initial results to a Twitter feed.
We use simulations of the ocean currents, and then we put in virtual plastic. We move that plastic with the ocean flow. At the same time, the plastic can fragment, it can degrade, organisms start growing on it. That weighs down the plastic so that it slowly starts to sink into the deeper ocean. So in that way, we're doing like this gigantic simulation of all of the ocean, of all the plastic moving around.
Van Sabeel thinks that a majority of plastic pollution is within 100 miles of shorelines, continually getting washed back up on beaches, down coastlines, or up and down to the sea floor.
Plastic continuously goes back and forth between the coastline and offshore. That's a lot of rubbing and fragmenting and scraping over the sand.
This commotion helps explain the presence of microplastics in sediments and animal guts, too. Laurent's organization is working on cleaning up the garbage patches in the middle of the ocean, but that won't do much for the other 99% of our plastic. The microplastics becoming part of our food web and geologic record the larger debris sinking to the bottom of the ocean, and more likely than not, the stuff getting washed up on beaches. Like this one, where I recently visited, where I found a mix of micro and larger plastics. But knowing where plastics end up can help us keep this plastic heap from growing. These photos were taken by volunteers at an annual International Coastal Cleanup event organized by the Ocean Conservancy, where people volunteer to pick up plastic on the beaches near them. The most common objects they find are food wrappers, cigarette butts, plastic bottle caps, and plastic cups and plates. The easiest way to get plastic like this out of the ocean is to prevent it from entering in the first place, with better recycling programs, or producing and using less plastic altogether. There are nearly 400,000.
Or just fucking launching it into orbit, dude. Send it out to space, brother. There you go. Problem solved. The moon loon. Okay, fuck, you really had to comment. Might as well admit it here. One of the three dudes was this guy. Third guy's a political streamer with a small head. Wait, what?
Or no, sorry. But I've had some crazy, you know, I've had a threesome with two dudes in me. Or no, sorry. Oh my God.
Okay, fuck, you really had to comment. Might as well admit here. One of the three dudes was this guy. Third guy's a political streamer on Twitch with a small head. Yeah, we had a three-way, dude. Yeah, we fucked. End of space creating a prison. Wait, there's actually a space trash video? Did we watch
miles
this?
Of coastline around the world. Not all of it accessible for people. But knowing that most of our
Who was it? No, I think he meant he's had a dream about having a threesome. Which that second part is probably true for the dream.
Plastic pollution hangs out along shorelines before it becomes microplastics or floats out to the open sea, means beach cleanups can go a long way in preventing further damage. So if you see plastic pollution on a beach, all the more reason to pick it up.
Open the door, please. It's very it's really fucking heavy in here. My brother is here. He just walked up. Was this pretty funny?
Who? Hasanabi? Hasanabi? Who's that? I don't know who that is. Fucking rat leaks, dude. Look at these.
Who the fuck is this bald guy, bro?
Fucking rat leak streamers down here.
Who the fuck is this bald British guy?
Who?
Is that Bill Burr? Is that British Bill Burr? Has anyone here seen the movie Gravity? The whole movie's about the crew of space shuttle mission being killed by flying pieces of space trash. Guys, I know he's not British, dude. I know he's not British. He's Australian. Big Path of Exile streamer? Wait, really? Oh, does he fucking does he play PoE? Why don't we launch our space into the sun?
Welcome to Life Noggin.
Okay, I want to know
is this
why.
one of those toy dogs that does a
Wait, I have a literal fucking space scientist in here in the room with me. Why don't we launch our trash into space? Why? Yeah, he's right. He said it takes a lot of energy to, like, the amount of energy to just, like, nuke it into orbit would be too much. So what if we figured out a way for, you know, for it to be cheaper? No, just into the sun. Okay. Why don't we throw the... Okay, here's another one. This is not in your field of expertise. You're a space scientist and not a volcano scientist, but why don't we throw it into a volcano? He had no answer to that. Chatter, good job. Why haven't you built a space elevator yet, pussy? Material strong enough doesn't exist, he said. Yeah, I think owned. We got him, boys. We got him. Fucking can't even build a goddamn space elevator, dude. Imagine. Pfft. Fucking if it were up to me, I would have built it like a while ago, you know? Psh, whatever. Yeah, sounds like a bunch of excuses, right? Exactly. Dude, fucking can't even make strong enough material, dude. Pfft.
Bunch of flips? Cool.
My cousin works at JPL doing rover shit on Mars. Does Murat know him? Sorry if that's racist against engineers, though. Yes, all engineers that work on space travel know one another. This is facts. No, that is racist, dumbass. He works at fucking Boeing.
I hate having to throw the trash out. I mean, I gotta get up, I gotta get the garbage, I gotta throw it into the sun,
Sorry,
and then
you
I
had to
gotta
hear
go
that,
back
Murat.
inside my house. It's just a
Anti-engineer
whole
racism.
ordeal. Oh, well, that's not how you guys do it? Right, I forgot. It's different in your world than it is in my world. Trash is a huge problem on Earth, and growing populations all over the planet are throwing away more garbage every year. Right now, humans throw away 3,500,000 tons of trash a day. Researchers estimate that by the end of the century, humans will be throwing away 11 million tons of trash a day. Human rockets today are more efficient than ever. People have even sent a mannequin in a car into space, just for fun. Like, just because they had so much money. So
Fucking
why
Elon.
aren't you humans using rockets to send your trash into the sun? Well, it's probably because the trash problem is even bigger than you think. One of the world's most cost-effective rockets is $90 million to launch, and can carry up to 70 tons of material into space. So, if we were to launch all of our trash into space using this type of rocket, we'd be spending, third care of the one, a lot of money. In fact, for 1 year's worth of trash, this could cost more than 6 times the world's current debt. Also, you'd need 18.3 million rockets to do it. And modeling after Kennedy Space Center's 160-acre launch pad, for 18.3 million rockets, you'd need a launching area bigger than China. I would actually love to see that launch. Oh, engineering, aren't you amazing? Oh, almost forgot. And if we send the rocket itself into the sun, we also lose that too, which is definitely not ideal. It's probably a better idea just to send the garbage out into low Earth orbit. But here's the kicker. Garbage in space is already a problem. Decades of defunct satellites, rocket boosters, and pieces of spacecrafts are creating a cosmic landfill. In 1996, a French satellite was damaged by space junk created a decade earlier. A collision to one satellite may affect others, because some satellites only function in networks like GPS. If one GPS satellite is struck, it
Seems like we need to build satellites a little differently, dude. It's fucking bullshit. Again, like I said, if I were to fucking build a satellite, dude, it wouldn't have these problems. I'm just saying.
affects basic navigation, airplane routing, and time synchronization for banking and finance. It can also affect guided missiles, drones, and intelligence operations. Also, orbitable debris has a significant risk to the International Space Station's hardware, and, most importantly, its human life.